Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads, here we go again. Hello, Dalien.
Hi there. How are you?
Excellent. It's Friday, so it's a day that ends in Y, so I'm excited.
Excellent. Very good. I am also excited because it is Friday. I love Fridays. I love the weekend, but I love life, and generally I'm excited about things.
And stuff.
Things that we discuss, other things that we
might
discuss.
Things that we didn't discuss.
Things that will happen that are, of course, awesome and exciting and wonderful, and that I have some idea what's all going to happen.
You know, but, I'm excited because right down the road from the house, a new place has opened up called Gratitude Cafe.
Oh.
It's really, really awesome. I think there's a few of them. I think I've been to one in LA, and pretty popular place, and it's like not even a mile from my house. So it's like a really good vegan restaurant. And, I'm pretty sure Anna is like biting at the bit to go. So probably sometime today I'll be in there.
Yeah, you'll have to make it maybe a dinner date. Are they open for dinner?
I'm pretty sure they are. But it's like right down the road. So very close, very convenient, and very delicious from what I remember. So that's exciting. If any of you guys are in the LA area or know where Gratitude Cafe is and you've never been, go try it.
Yeah.
Sounds
like it comes pretty highly recommended from what you're saying.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
They have a couple of restaurants here in the Southern California area.
I don't know for sure. I know I've at least been to one, so I don't know how many others they have, but I know they have one very, very close to my house now.
I see. Awesome.
So what's going on, Mr. Dalien, in the ways of a mysterious or exciting or intriguing story of the day?
Or uplifting.
Oops,
yeah.
I forgot one.
Well, they're all uplifting in their own way, since we're only going to talk about things that are, we think are worthy to share, and that's going to be usually something uplifting.
Uplifting or exciting.
Sometimes we may get a little more deep down the rabbit hole, and so things might get a little more intense, shall we say? Because we don't shy away from, talking about things that you could call dark, or I'm thinking right off the top of my head, Chris's story from in Pondering Breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think that's something that I loved. Anyway, my story today is regarding this largest air purifier in the world that sucks up smog and turns it into gemstones.
What?
Fascinating. I suppose that German engineer, let's see, a designer, Dan Rosengard.
Sucks up smog and turns them into gemstones?
Yes, in Rotterdam, Germany. It's the largest air purifier ever built. a tower that scrubs the pollution from more than 30,000 cubic meters of air per hour and then condenses those fine particles of smog into tiny gemstones that can be embedded into rings, cufflinks, and more.
What kind of gemstones?
Well, they show a picture of a ring, and it looks like, I don't know, zirconia or something like that, you would call it, I suppose. You know, the imitation diamond thingies.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's a thing, and it's a pretty awesome thing, though. I mean, you know, I'm a huge fan of any kind of mindset that will take something like, you know, air pollution and turning into something
or like the fungus that can eat plastic.
Yeah, of course. You know, I mean, you know, if we could devise a way to suck up all the junk and oil from the oceans, for example, and make that into, I don't know, something like, you know, this cool like Play-Doh type thing that we all play with and make sculptures out of. I don't know. Just that whole mindset of, you know, taking something, of course, you know, that's out there that's negative or that's, you know, a pollutant, and then purifying it in that creative way is just, for sure, really, really worthy of praise. That's uplifting, and it's just ecological and maybe even sustainable. So,
yeah, definitely. There's like some plastic-eating fungus, I believe, and bacteria. I saw, just looking at it here, I just pulled out the plastic-eating mushrooms that could save the world. Like some of these things are, I mean, just to know that these sorts of things are possible with all the mess that we have to unscrew. It's encouraging to know that. So is it just the one type of gemstone that this thing can make, or is there more than one?
Let me see.
Does it clarify? Because I'll take some gemstones, you know.
I suppose it's just the one type, actually. It's not, of course, a actual gemstone. It's just something, I would say, from the looks of it, that it's something that's a, you know, artificial gemstone-looking product or byproduct. But no, yeah, it's not literally a gemstone.
Like it's sort of like the positive head bracelet, taking something that's old and discarded and kind of crappy and turning it into something useful. Exactly,
because I feel like that doesn't take anything away from what I said before in terms of it being just such a cool creative. Yeah, exactly, creative, kind of like putting an artistic flair to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, I would like to move right along and jump into the positive pondering breakdown of the day.
Excellent.
And today I have a Rumi quote. I love Rumi.
He's got some good ones.
He does have some good ones. So many good ones. Close your eyes. Fall in love. Stay there. As always, Rumi just strikes a chord with his eloquent, you know, way of speaking. And in this case, what is he talking about? Close your eyes, fall in love, stay there. It makes me think of the quote that I referenced a few weeks back on a show, and it was, I think it's from Ram Dass, and he was inquiring, you know, about Jesus to his teacher, and Maharaji. You know, Ram Dass inquired about what was Jesus teaching, what was he like? And Maharaji closed his eyes and sat there for a moment and kind of meditated and didn't answer. And after a few minutes, tears rolled down his face, and he opened his eyes and said he lost himself in love. And, you know, we get so caught up on religious ideas and connotations and with these teachers, and we assign them all kinds of things like, in Jesus's case, make him blonde hair and blue eyed, which was not white, not really the case for the region where he was born. But it's when you strip away all that stuff, what was there, and it's someone losing themselves in love. I believe that Maharaji was right, that he lost himself in love, and we can do the same thing. You know, I saw a talk by Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist spiritual teacher, and he was talking about Buddha, and he said, you know, Buddha was just a man. He was just one of us. He was of this earth. You know, anyone born here is one of us, and just because they achieved some great recognition or you know, some sense of connection to source doesn't make them superior in any way. It's all an extension of the one self, the one source, as you are, as I am. And, you know, if we can make it our focus to to just stop and fall in love with life and then stay there, bring awareness to the moment. And you make that a daily part of your practice of living, the shift that will happen, instead of constantly being lost in thought and reaching and searching and needing and mind, not enough in the past, in the future. This is something, of course, we talk about all the time, and it's something that in an effort to bring it back to awareness, we must continue to circle it. And if you knock long enough, the door is opened. And that's all this podcast is about, is opening that door for ourselves and for you, the listeners, are helping, to achieve that aim. And, close your eyes, fall in love, stay there. It's such a powerful idea. Imagine if every day you woke up and said, today I'm going to spend some time just closing my eyes, falling in love, and then staying there. And each moment as I move through, just letting whatever's happening be, and staying in that sense of love, in that pool of loving vibration. Whatever I'm seeing, I become like, the eye in the center of the storm, so to speak. Everything's happening all around you. Life's happening, dates and meetings and the kids and your family and your lover. It's all happening, and there's a calm presence. Just awareness is, it's everything. And as you taste it even a little bit, it becomes addictive in a very good way. And as someone who has a lot of energy and can certainly get lost in thought, and my mind going a million miles a minute, this is challenging for me, and I'm able to do it more and more frequently. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. And when you do this, when you achieve this state, you are a raging success. There is no higher form of success than moving into a loving vibration and just living from there with, allowing things to be.
Yeah, I think that you want to move into that state of loving vibration and unconditional love and acceptance, because you are ready to see past the mind's foibles, I guess you could say, like the mind's folly and, wanting to always believe that it has all the answers. There are some people out there, of course, a lot of people who are perhaps just not ready to let go of these ideas, right? Yeah. So it's just ideas that live in their head, but they somehow equate that with the way things are. And then they operate by that when there's a whole dimension of life that goes beyond who we are, goes beyond our ideas, our thoughts. Yeah. There's a whole feeling dimension, and of course, a great amount of information out there that you could call nonverbal awareness as well. But there's just so much to life that doesn't have to do with the ego or with the logical, rational mind. Or
your accomplishments or what you need to do or haven't done or should have been.
Exactly. And the thing that keeps you trapped or locked on one side of the fence there is judgment. I feel like, I feel like that quality of judging things, which is of course distinct from discernment, Brandon. But that discerning the difference between two things doesn't necessarily imply that there's a judgment. I mean, I've heard people use that sort of language to make that distinction, right? Yeah, where they can say, someone is being, of course, for example, being violent and aggressive upon a third party, right? Like they're, maybe wanting to beat someone up in like an altercation or something. But you can still, it's the sort of thing where you say, love the aggressor, hate the act, or something like this, where you are wanting to send as much unconditional love to someone, even as you are preparing to stop them, even, in their actions, because you are, interceding according to your higher understanding. So, yeah.
I mean, if you take a moment and you just think, put down everything, all the wanting, needing ideas of who you are, who you're supposed to be, where you're supposed to go, what time you're supposed to be there, and you put all that, and just imagine for a moment that all that is BS and none of it's all just baggage you've been carrying your whole life. So it seems very familiar. And then just imagine in this moment putting it all down and taking a deep breath and closing your eyes, and unless you're driving, and thinking to myself, I'm exactly where I need to be. I am absolutely perfectly on track. I couldn't be more on track and in the divine flow of the way that my life is meant to unfold. good, bad, ugly, indifferent, all the experiences, all that story has led me to now. And if you can do that, it's like a graduation day. How good does it feel to put down the idea of you're not enough, you haven't done enough, you should be more? All those are just wrong thoughts. They're just bad ideas that you have been shown as the way to live. And it just happens to be incorrect. And if you can accept that in this moment, you're free in this moment. And then repeat the process. That's it. You're free. And what you'll see is such a reflection. You'll see a reflection of that inner state of freedom that is given. And all of a sudden, everything that you ever wanted starts showing up so much more easily because you don't need it. I saw a great meme the other day, and it was Bob Marley, who's just so magical, holding his forehead and laughing. And it says, when you realize needing nothing attracts everything, you just let it all go, and then things come to you instead of you chasing it. But that's enough on my perspective for the next 10 minutes. Let's see what Eckhart Tolle has to say about this, because this is his area of expertise. So I'm going to play a clip, Stop Compulsive Thoughts, and he's talking all about this subject. Take a listen.
So what happened then was the liberation, one could say, from compulsive thinking and from identification with thinking. Thinking still happens sometimes, but ever since then, no thought has made me unhappy, and thought still occasionally happens. And of course, when I speak, thought is involved, because thought is needed so that words can come out of my mouth. But it is spoken from that deeper field of no thought. So then thought arises out of that. And any creative activity and any creative insight that ever occurred to anyone in the world has come out of that field that is deeper or higher, whatever you want to call it, than thought. And so it's that anybody who is creative in any way, if only momentarily, must have access to that field of no thought, where suddenly there's a stillness but an alertness. And then perhaps it only lasts a moment, and yet after suddenly there's a realization. Then it takes form as thought, and that's fine. But now it's thought that is actually empowered. It has a newness, a freshness to it. It's not the old record. Thought mostly is the old record going round and round. So any artist creates from that, even if they don't know it, just as I didn't know when the shift happened that my thought processes had become reduced. They just had become reduced, and I knew I was at peace, but I didn't know why. So there are many creative people who don't quite realize that where their creativity comes from, and that they enter that state of what I often call presence, which is thoughtless awareness. They enter that state, perhaps only briefly, occasionally, but that's where the treasures come from. And then they are given form by the mind, and then perhaps external form as writing or as music or as painting, whatever form it takes. Or it may be that it takes on a completely different form, that field. If you're in touch with that field, it could simply be not go through the mind. It can enter this world as an emanation of peace, compassion, or love. So in that sense, sacredness, one could say, is associated as an essential characteristic of that realm that is beyond thought. Peace, sacredness, love in the true sense of the word. I don't like to use that word so much because it's been misused. But there's a sacredness to that field, and that can, those who are in touch with that for any length of time, of course time only exists on the external level, in that field there is no time. You're in touch with that, then also as long as you're in touch with that, you emanate peace. Something shines through you, one could say. Something shines through the form. There's an openness into a realm that is beyond form. And so, the way I now experience the world is through stillness, mostly. One could say everything happens in a field of stillness, and even an agitation could happen around me, and that also happens in a field of stillness. It's liberation from the need to think. And now perhaps before you ask another question, or maybe that is the question that you're going to ask, how does it happen? Why did it happen to you? Can this happen to everybody? Is it going to happen to everybody? Or is there anything we can do to make it happen? Because there's not much point in just listening to something that happened to somebody else and think, oh, that's great, but what about me? How could I couldn't get there. But what I sense is that state of becoming free of compulsive thinking is arising in many human beings already now. It's not so much that they need to make it happen, it's more like allowing it to happen. And there are many humans who don't realize that already there are times when they are in that state of thoughtless awareness. But it's not recognized because the mind cannot recognize it. And because they're still perhaps 90% trapped in mind, then it would simply seem like a moment of nothingness. Or it could, if they go more deeply, it could be that they remember something as, oh, that was a wonderful moment, but where is it now? Sometimes people report in a moment of great danger, they experienced that shift when suddenly the mind stopped and they became enormously peaceful. And they didn't know whether they would survive the next few seconds. But suddenly there was that field of peace. And they did survive, those who did. And then they talked about it later and said, that was very strange. I was facing death. And suddenly there was this peace. And I could see whatever the situation was. I could see the car coming towards me and I knew it wouldn't stop. But I felt incredibly peaceful and alive and alert and present. It can happen in those situations. It can happen in situations when, for some reason, the mind stops, even sometimes through great physical exertion, so much that suddenly the mind stops. Or overwhelmed by enormous beauty, and for a moment there's simply an opening. And whenever you respond to beauty in nature, for example, or even the beauty of another human being, or a rose, a flower, a plant, there is a moment for the recognition of beauty to be possible. There's always a moment of thoughtless awareness. And that's the moment when you truly perceive. And for many people, that moment is very short. And then the mind comes in and interprets it. But if they could pay more attention to that moment, when there is actually the stillness, it's only through perception in the stillness that you can be aware of beauty. And so in that moment, the beauty is there. So the beauty, and also this applies to love, true love, can only be there in the absence of mental noise. Now, for many people, that is only very short and they don't recognize it because it's so short. And then the mind comes in again and says something about it, or say, I want, or the future or past, whatever comes in. So if you just pay attention to naturally arising moments of pure awareness or presence. It could happen when you wake up in the morning, eyes open, and you look around, and stillness is there. And some people experience that, and it may last for half a minute or a minute. And for many people, then the mind suddenly starts to work. The machinery of mind, the wheels. And before they know it, they've gone into the state of being completely identified with thought. And suddenly they remember what their problems are and what they have to do today. And all those, oh, and that, oh my God, oh, and then I have to do, oh, on yesterday this happened. Suddenly, of course, it's the state of being identified with thought is a problematic state. Very and very heavy. So if you can catch that time when thoughtless awareness is there naturally, and when you pay attention to it, it stays for longer. Just be aware of it, because it is the awareness. And nature is beautiful. When you go into nature, you can only really see it when the mind is still. Then you truly see, you truly perceive. May not, perhaps not necessarily totally still, but you can, at least some of the time, you can truly be there and listen and see and smell what is and not label it. And then imagine what that does to relations with human beings when you can allow the other person just to be without the compulsion to label immediately. Allow them to be and to say and to do. And again, I use the word allow, and that's a key word that takes you, is a little pointer that takes you into that state of presence. Allow what is to be, and what is always this moment.
Thoughtless awareness, he calls it, Dalien. Thoughtless awareness is where the treasure comes from. Liberation from the need to think. Can it happen to everyone? Yes. Of course, allow it to happen. Allowing being the key word that he touched on a lot, right? Allowing it to happen instead of trying to make it happen. Thoughtless awareness. Just become more aware, and the more, as anything, where attention goes, energy flows, the more aware, yes, mind's going to come in and you're going to have ideas about it and then what you should do about it, and then, and let that be. But the more you pay attention to that precursor to the thought about the awareness, the more the awareness thrives. And the more the awareness thrives, the more it grows. It's getting fed, so to speak. And this is the path to freedom. This is the path out of the prison of your mind. Once you start tasting this process, you found it. You found the path. And, path that I would suggest and argue that you've sought for lifetimes. And here you are. You're resonating with this information at this moment in this time because you're ready. And congratulations, congratulations to myself. Congratulations to you. We went through more than we remember to get here, I believe. And, and of course, a lot of times he talked about Dalien, which I thought was interesting. You don't recognize it a lot of times because it seems like a moment of nothingness because your mind wasn't active. But once again, it's very subtle, so you've got to really bring your awareness in. It's like you catch it happening. Of course, he talked about mind becoming peaceful in moments of danger. We've all had those heightened moments where all of a sudden everything's in slow motion, and you feel the perfection And I think that is really a gift when those sorts of things happen. Moment of beauty, of course, is always preceded by thoughtless awareness, and just allowing what happens to be it makes it so much easier. It's when we start slapping labels and needs and desires on it, then we're out of it and we're into the mind.
I am reminded of the meditation technique, or the technique that serves as a great introduction to meditation for so many people. And it's based on the principle of engaging the conscious mind so that it's basically occupied with really any kind of a task. A lot of times it's just a very simple task, right? Like observing an object. And
observing and not labeling, is what he even just talked about, right?
Exactly. So you will be given, or you will choose an object like an apple, for example. Anything like a candle. A candle flame is kind of a typical example.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will gaze upon this thing and try and very intently observe it, and be very alert with your observation. Try and study everything you're seeing, of course, but try to do this in a way where you're not thinking about anything else. And so your only thoughts should be just your pure sense perception, really.
Yeah.
And any kind of really trick, of course, that or technique that you adopt that will help you bypass the conscious mind like that, I think can be great, because if you're using your conscious intention to do this, you can open up into that dimension of life. I think the super conscious, perhaps, this awareness that transcends the conscious mind, but it's not subconscious.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's, something like that. But that meditation technique is for sure one that I think has helped a lot of people sort of realize really the state that they're trying to cultivate or attain.
Yeah.
Or understand, really, because
practice makes perfect, and it's a great way to practice, right?
Exactly. And it's something that's somewhat alien, really. Well, I would say it's pretty alien to a lot of people just because of our Western mindset.
And we're so much information and data is just flowing at us all the time, and it's like process, think, deal with this. It's like stimulation overload. It's the opposite.
Right. Now more than ever, right? Like the last 2-3 decades with the internet exploding like it is, but in general, just a whole action-oriented mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also been changing for decades. So
yeah. Well, speaking of, what do you say, Dalien? We leave the good folks out in listener land with a track to try this with, and once again, not while you're driving, but for me, music is such a way to tap into this. You talk about closing your eyes, falling in love, and staying there. The right musical vibrations can take me to that place so easily. And, especially when I then am consciously aware and attempting to drum up more of those feelings of love vibrations and allowing the moment to just be as it is without labels, then I can really get into a heightened state. And so I would like to suggest that as a exercise for you guys today as we leave you for the weekend, assuming you listen to it today. And this song, Dalien, you chose is Bombay Dub Orchestra. And the song is Dust. A great song to just sit back, close your eyes, fall in love, stay there, let this play in the background, and see how you feel at the end of the song. Love you all.